This week on Quality Digest Live, build a better recommendation system and the world will beat a path to your door.
And do tough markets contribute to bad business ethics? That and more when we come back.
Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for July 15th, 2011. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Mike Richmond, publisher of Quality Digest.
And I'm Editor-in-Chief Dirk Ducharme. Well, did you ever wonder how websites like Amazon, Netflix, or Pandora can so accurately suggest things that you might be interested in? Or maybe you always wondered why they were so inaccurate. Either way, this story is for you. This story was written by Larry Hardesty from MIT News, and I'll show you the story here in just one second. There we go. Improving recommendation systems. What the story was about, MIT has been doing a study on ranking systems, and we're all kind of familiar with the 5-star rankings that you see, as we mentioned, on Netflix or Amazon, or maybe you use Yelp to look up hotel ratings or restaurant ratings, right?
And they're all intended to help prioritize or give you suggestions for other things that you may like.
Yeah, and essentially the way they work, as we all know, is you go out and maybe, or it doesn't even have to be that, surveys. We do surveys ourselves.
All the time.
You get a survey or an online survey or otherwise, and you're asked to rank a particular characteristic on a scale of 1 to 5. Maybe 1 is the worst and 5 is the best. Sure. And you do that, and then all these rankings are put together. They're statistically analyzed, and hopefully statistically analyzed, and a ranking system comes out for a particular product or service.
In theory, that should give you an ability to look at what you would like.
And in theory, it does, and in actuality, it does. I mean, if these ranking systems didn't work, there would be catastrophe because Netflix basically runs its whole system on these 5-star rankings.
Well, and there's an algorithm that backs all this up
exactly.
to tie it all together.
Right. But everybody, for a long time, everybody's known that there is a weakness to this. Obviously, two obvious ones, very obvious ones, is there is an internal inconsistency. I may rank a movie as a 4 today. Maybe I'm feeling grumpy. When the next time I see it, and I'll rank it a 3, and the next time I see it, I'll have been drinking, and I'll give it a 5, right? And there's also a difference between how people who even agree on the movie might rank it. So you and I might see a movie or experience customer service from Amazon, and we both think, oh, it's great, it's fantastic, I love it, I'm going to rank it, you give it a 4, I give it a 5.
Now, I may be the kind of person that never gives anybody a 5.
That's the other problem, is this is also a well-known problem in survey taking, is there are people who always check the middle. There are people who who never check the upper end, and who never check the lower end. And that skews the results to some certain extent. Now, there are ways to kind of statistically deal with these things and manipulate a little bit, but still it's a problem because of these two problems we mentioned, just the problem on a personal level and the problem on an interpersonal level. So what MIT is doing is revisiting the idea that a lot of people are familiar with is pairwise comparisons. A pairwise comparison is obviously as you have 2 items. It could be 2 movies, it could be 2 pieces of fruit, and you ask people to say which one do you like better. That is much more how we operate in the real world, right? In the real world, we go to the store, we're faced with an array of products. We don't look for a ranking system. There isn't a ranking system. And even if there was, we wouldn't use it. More than likely, we're going to go, I'm going to pick this product over that product. I'm going to do a pairwise comparison.
Right. You're going to boil it down. Right.
And so what they're trying to do, what the folks at MIT are trying to do, now that the computing power is out there for this, is to use the same pairwise comparisons, but really expand it onto a much larger scale. Now, in the past, the problem was, let's say, the idea of movies. It turns out, I believe they mentioned it here in the article, there's something like, just to rank 100 movies, offers like something like 10 million different permutations of how 100 movies could be pairwise compared.
Sure.
And by pairwise, it isn't necessarily 2. You could be ranking them by 3s or by 4s or whatever.
Just tying them together.
Tying them together in some sort of order. It's a relationship.
Right.
So if you have 10 million combinations for 100 movies, and you have 1 million people, let's say with Netflix, that gives you so much data that up until now, and even still now, the computational power required to analyze that data just wasn't there. And that's largely why, for large-scale surveys or something like this, they haven't been used.
Right.
The computational power now is there, that if you can strip out some of the extraneous data and kind of deal with it, that actually this is usable. The computing power now is there to actually do comparisons.
Right, right. And we as well as many people out there, many of our users use surveys all the time and need and accumulate a lot of data from surveys.
Right, and that's actually what's important about this article. One of the reasons that we chose it is from let's say from a quality standpoint. We're constantly doing surveys, whether you're a service industry or you sell a product. You're probably at some point or another, frequently or infrequently, asking for information from the people who purchase your product.
Sure.
And you are most likely doing what we usually do, which is a little survey that has, because they're easy to score, you were using a 5-point Likert scale, right? So it was
sure.
1 to 5. So is there a way to improve on that? Well, that's what these guys are getting at, is if we can trust that data that we're getting back from our surveys, if we can trust that more, then the decisions that we make as a company in terms of what products, how products are being perceived in the marketplace, how is the quality being perceived, or maybe what is the actual quality, regardless of perception. If we can make those surveys better by using a different system of ranking our products and services, then this is going to spill down to the bottom line for companies. So this kind of information, it isn't widely in use, although I will say, we'll flip over to the screen here, there is the guys at MIT have made a little demo site where you can see how this pairwise comparison works. You can actually create your own little poll. They have a sample poll there that you can use. It's kind of interesting to go out and play around with it. I don't have this link up on our player page right now, but I will put it on there later. Or actually, if you go to the article, the MIT article, and there's a link to it there as well. Right there, but this actually does have ramifications for industry. So.
Well, for voice of customer, I mean, this is very important for all of us to have accurate voice of customer data. And again, as you say, those scaled surveys, and we saw this just recently with our own reader survey, where you get a lot of stuff that's 3.25 to 3.75.
Yeah, what's that mean?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, you know a 3.7 versus a 3.4. Well, the 3.7 is moderately better, but
or maybe not.
Or maybe not. Again, depending on what that person's mood was that day. Who knows? Yeah.
Well, and even just the analysis of the data, which we've been pounded on. I mean, we do surveys. Everybody does surveys, but every time we've done them, I mean, we've had all of our statisticians have whether it's Balistracci or Paisdek or Ouellette have kind of pointed out, okay, what you're doing is okay,
but it's not as effective as it could be.
It's not effective as it could be, and also the way the data, unfortunately, the way ranking data gets used is sometimes meaningless. I mean, is there really a difference between a 4 and a 3?
Right. Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. And a lot of statisticians would say, given the way a lot of these surveys are done, the difference between a 4 and a 3. Probably not there. Between a 5 and a 2,
yeah, sure.
Maybe so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. Great. Well, voice of customer interactions always very, very important.
And you have a customer-related story as well.
I have a story on customers as well, which ran in Monday's issue, and I know that, Dirk, you're going to get it up here now on your screen share, by Akhilesh Gulati, ran on Monday's issue of Quality Digest Daily, entitled "Got Customer Requirements." So this was a really interesting article, and Akhilesh began by talking about a buddy of his, Joe, who worked with a restaurant to have his Thanksgiving dinner prepared for him in advance, so he wouldn't have to worry about cooking it.
Right. Great idea. The restaurant was doing entire prepared meals,
the
right?
whole thing, prepared meals for Thanksgiving, the turkey, all the fixings, the whole thing. So it sounded great to Joe, right? Hey, what the heck? No fuss, no muss. Pay him the money and pick it up on the appointed day. Well, there were some problems, and as you read the article, you'll see what these problems were. What it comes down to is this idea that that restaurant over-promised and under-delivered. Classic problem with customer service, right? And this is something that we find a lot, and not just in the food industry, but in a lot of industries where there's this element of going out to the customers and saying whatever you need to say to a customer, doing whatever you need to do.
Who's doing that?
Well, who do you think is doing it?
I think it's the salespeople.
I think it's the salespeople. And most organizations and most of our readers are in for-profit organizations that are sales-driven companies, right? That's what most of us do. Nothing in this world happens before a sale is made, generally speaking. So they're sales organizations, and in sales organizations, the pressure is on to bring in sales, right? We've all seen it. You've seen it. Yep. Sure. So this idea that you're going to promise anything you have to get the order is interesting, and Akhilesh then traced that back through what you should be doing, which really is working with your team to make sure that you can fulfill maybe dates that something need to be delivered, making sure that the product is developed in time, the marketing is in place, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, basically not offering, and making sure you're offering what you really have.
Make sure you checked in with the rest of your team, the salespeople checked in with your team before you go out to your customers. I took this even a bit further than that, and to me, this article was all about business ethics.
Sure.
Business ethics is something that we always are concerned about, and I know that everyone out there is always concerned about. Then, really, everybody, if you ask 100 people, everybody's going to say, well, hey, I'm an ethical person, my company is an ethical company. We run our business in an ethical way, in a moral way. But what does that really mean? I mean, to me, ethics, business ethics in particular, are bedrock concerns. They don't change, they're unchangeable, they're unyielding. Your ethic is that you do the same thing the same way each time, regardless of circumstances. The problem is, in tough economic environments, and certainly you could consider where we are at today to be a tough economic environment, the problem becomes that you want to let some of those things slide. You want to say, well, this isn't the way we do business. This isn't really the way we want to do business, but we got to get the sale. The management says the salespeople, get those numbers in, bring in the orders, right? So. Okay, this quarter we need to get the orders in because we've had a bad quarter, so we're gonna just make a promise to a customer. We may not be able to deliver, but that's okay. We'll make it up next quarter. We won't be doing this all the time. That's not how it works. That's not how it's supposed to work.
And I think kind of what I've seen also is once that decision has kind of been made, everybody then all actually buys into it. They actually believe. I've seen where they actually believe. It started off as maybe a little white lie. Oh, can we deliver it at the end of February?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
And you see everybody roll their eyes. Why not?
But a week away, everybody's like, oh yeah, sure, that's no problem. It's like they convince themselves, even though there's plenty of data around them, there is no way you're going to make that deadline.
Right, and you really probably knew, really in your heart of hearts, you knew that
to begin with, you know it wasn't
sale.
going to happen.
You knew that, and the reason why this is a quality story, and the reason why I feel like this was worthy of coverage, is this idea that what is quality? The definition of quality that I've always thought was the closest to the mark was the idea that it's conformance to requirements, the customer's requirements.
The customer's requirements,
right.
Right.
Is what defines quality, I think, in all cases. And if you are going to your customer and you're making them a promise that you, again, in your heart of hearts know you're not probably going to be able to fulfill, you're certainly not going to be able to fulfill their requirements. If they're saying to you, hey, February 1st, I need the product. I need it in hand. I need it to be tested, vetted. I need it to work. I need to be able to go with it.
Right.
And this is, let's say, July 15th. You say, plenty of time. Sure.
Yeah.
We'll sell it to them. Meanwhile, the development people, the marketing people, whomever in your team might be like, hey, there's no way.
I've seen that. I've literally seen that happen. The sales guy comes back to engineering and says,
"Hey, I got an order.
I just sold a thing that we don't sell yet, that we don't make yet." And they're going,
"You have until February 1st." What? That happens.
Everybody has had that happen to them.
Happens all the time. And what's the ultimate result of that? The salesperson has to go back to the customer on January 31st and say,
hey,
sorry, we're sliding. We had some unexpected delays, which weren't unexpected, of course, because if they had really looked at their process, they would have known.
So it all comes down to being honest.
Being honest and understanding that we talk about this a lot. Excuse me. In our company, is that wow, it's that I'm choking up. You can see how emotionally invested I am.
Sad.
We talk about this a lot, this idea that you've got to be in touch with your customers, you've got to build relationships. It's relationship selling, and sales is like anything else. It's a humanistic concern within business, and you've got to be honest, and you've got to have ethics, and you've got to feel good about yourself, and you've got to understand what the customer needs.
I love you said that. You got to feel good about yourself. I think what happens is once a company, and I don't mean they have to do the news of the world debacle and completely sell out, but even if it's minor things like little white lies or just saying, well, I know we can't ship it on this date, but I know we'll be able to ship it like a month later or whatever,
close enough.
Letting it slide, I think that works at the kind of the ethical center of a company. I think it actually does wear away and kind of erode the edges of the morality of a company. Even though it's not egregious, it's not anything major, just these little nitpicky little things, lying here, a little fudge there. I don't know, it wears on you.
It wears on the company, it wears on you individually, and it also wears on the customer, because the customer now has been trained to not accept what he or she is being told. Not only by the company that services them, that vendor, but by all vendors. We've all had experiences where we've gone to a company that we want to have a sales relationship with, and we have to overcome those levels of distrust that have been built in from prior problems, not even necessarily with us servicing them.
So what's the solution?
The solution is, I think you hit on it, honesty is the best policy, and understanding that quality means conformance to the customer's requirements. Understand what that customer wants and give it to them.
And I'm going to throw this out here really, really quick. This is something that we've done and mentioned in Quality Digest a few times, is I believe your own personal values do not get checked at the door. I don't care where those values come from, whether they're religious values or values that were beat into you by your mama or grandmama,
your teacher,
or whatever.
Economic values.
When you come into the building, we all have a set of values that we outside the building adhere to. And just because you walk through the front door does not mean those values go away. You got to treat your customer the same way you treat your best friend.
Right, your neighbor.
Your neighbor, exactly.
And even more than that, management should welcome that. Management should embrace that. Management should help the individuals that are in the organization be humanists and take that relationship into their relationships with their customers. Very important stuff. So thank you, Akhilesh, for that article.
Yeah.
And speaking of some of our customers.
Speaking of some of our customers, we've actually heard from a couple of them.
We've been encouraging everyone out there to please send us reader mail each time, either during the show or after at qdl@qualitydigest.com. And we had a few people come in at the end of last show.
At the end of last show, we got a letter from Ann saying today was the first time I had an opportunity to view the show. Loved it. Plan to tune in every week.
Thank you.
Ann?
Thank you, Ann.
Here's looking at you.
That's great.
And also from Regina, just watched the Friday online presentation for the first time. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Glad to have
Hope
you
you
aboard.
can do one in the future on Baldrige, ISO, and Six Sigma tools in order to get a holistic business management system model. I'd like to hear a roundtable of different people talking about aspects of use of these tools.
Well, Regina, funny you should mention that.
Strange you should bring that up. I'm assuming you mean live, and live is what we're going to bring you.
That's right.
On July 25th at 11 a.m., we're going to have, won't be a round table, it'll actually be kind of a lineup. Be myself, Michael Harry, and Tom Peisdeck. You should recognize one or both of those names. Michael Harry and Tom Peisdeck have been around since essentially the inception of Six Sigma. Certainly Michael Harry, and then a few years later, Tom Peisdeck. These are the experts in Six Sigma. If you want to ask any questions about Six Sigma, show up for that show. It'll be like this one. You can email your questions in live. We'll feed them to Michael Harry and Tom Peisdeck live. They'll answer them live. And don't be afraid to send hardball questions.
That's right. We want the cynics of Six Sigma to weigh in on this too, because really Six Sigma is a battleground in many cases, and a lot of people have a lot of conflicting viewpoints on it, value.
And there's a lot of patting on the back going on. You're part of the Six Sigma club, but there is there are legitimate questions about how it's used and so forth, and these are guys to ask. But more than that, they're actually going to touch on the future of Six Sigma and what they believe this methodology holds in store, other than just kind of the narrow viewpoint we have of it within manufacturing. Let's say
we're very happy. We're very proud that Tom and Michael have agreed to join us on the 25th, and again that'll be 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern.
It's a 1 hour show.
It's a 1 hour show, and again, you'll have plenty of chances to write in, and you can write in again now, as we've been reminding you on the show. You can write in right now at qdl@qualitydigest.com, and you can send questions for Michael and Tom, and we'll put them in the queue and throw them over to Tom and Michael at the time.
Great.
Great. Well, thank you. And the other thing I want to remind you about is this week coming up in Quality Digest Daily. Actually, we started this week in Quality Digest Daily, I think earlier, was a contest that we call the Hall of Fame, Measurement Hall of Fame name game. Yes, that's what it was. I always forget that. Strange, because I actually came up with this
created
contest. This is a cute little contest. I actually did a little extra credit on this to come up with the names of about 100 scientists that I could find fairly easily on an online search. About 100 scientists who gave their names to a unit of measurement, right? And we actually are asking you only to take 20 of those and match them up with the description of the unit.
Oh, like Professor Inch.
Professor Inch, that worm. Yes. He,
Smurdly Foot.
Smurdly Foot.
Smurdly Foot.
That's right.
Little known fact. That's where
right.
the term came from.
The S foot. Yes. Yes.
Right.
The 13 inches, I think.
I'm sure that's going to end up in SI one of these days.
Probably,
okay.
yes. But go out to the contest, please, at Quality Digest Daily. You can check that out on Monday. It ran all this week as well. And we're going to be announcing a winner. If you can match all those up, you'll be entered to win. And all those that have all the correct answers will be entered into a drawing for a $50 gift card.
That's right.
So that's going to be, the contest ends on Friday, July 29th.
Yes.
Yes,
I believe so.
couple of weeks. So check that out this week in Quality Digest Daily.
Yep.
Great.
Good week.
Well, that's a good week. That's our show for the week. Thank you all for joining us. We wish you all a great summer weekend, and we'll see you back here next week.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks. Bye.